Welcome back to Hair Smarter, the podcast where we cut through the noise about what it actually takes to thrive behind the chair and beyond it. I'm Sarah Jane.
And I'm Sarah. And today we're doing something a little different.
This episode is structured as a debate.
Okay, so it's not going to be a fight, just so anyone, you don't have to get crazy about it, but it's not going to be a fight, and it's not a generational takedown either.
But it's an honest debate about professionalism in the salon. What it used to mean and what it means now, and whether we've evolved or declined.
So I'm going to be taking the modern perspective. So, things like social media, AI, boundaries, flexibility.
And I'll be holding the traditional foundation, the unspoken rules that built the industry.
All right, we're going to challenge each other.
And we're going to challenge you. So Harvard Business Review reports that generational conflict at work usually isn't about age. It's about mismatched expectations.
And expectations around professionalism have changed really fast.
Yes.
So if you feel defensive at any point,
that might be the point.
All right, cool. Let's debate it.
So let's talk about what professionalism used to mean. Professionalism used to mean restraint. You arrived early, you dressed polished, you didn't eat during a service, you didn't talk or text on the phone, you didn't gossip, you didn't let the client feel your stress. It was about composure. So research on grit shows perseverance predicts long-term success more than talent. We built grit.
That's how we grew up, yeah? Like, would you say, honestly, that's how both you and I came up through the industry. So it truly, truly was like, nope, no, you get like 5 seconds to eat lunch, maybe. I didn't eat lunch for a long time. There definitely wasn't texting, though we're both a little aged like a fine wine. And I don't know if there was a lot of texting.
Those did not exist.
And it really was about composure. Even though you were sweating, running behind, doing all the things, it was really all about, not showing any of that.
I remember being an assistant in the salon. I wasn't allowed to stand and cross my arms or lean against the wall.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember one time the cord fell out of the wall, the blow dryer cord, and the client reached over and plugged it back in for me because she was closer to it. And I got like the death stare from my manager. Like I almost got written up because the client wasn't allowed to do anything. The client wasn't allowed to help you, like nothing. You were the only person that was allowed to touch your tools.
And girl, the amount of times that I got in trouble for how I was dressed at work. Oh, Connie, if you are listening, sorry, girl, but also not sorry because I was comfortable. But yeah, that was a big thing too, especially at Bumble and Bumble back in the day. It was like you really had to dress up. And listen, these legs are not meant for heels, nor are these feet. And I tried
I'm
so
sorry,
many
nor
times.
is this career.
Yeah, thank you. You know what? Thank you. You're right.
If you're going to stay in this industry as long as we have, I should have stopped wearing heels many years before I did.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. And listen, like we built grit, right? But we also built burnout. The American Psychological Association reports chronic overwork leads to burnout and decreased performance. I think hustle culture made incredible stylists. I really do. But it didn't really teach us sustainability.
No, definitely not. And it's just
especially like as we went out on our own, having that hustle culture, it definitely took me, I'm going to say close to 10 years to really get my shit together, and not, sometimes I still do it. Like, it's so second nature to be like, "Oh, I need to answer a text right now. I need to book that appointment right now. I need to answer that email right now," even if it's 10:30 at night. That's
Yeah.
kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, and it really did breed the self-neglect for me, because it
Mm,
was like, "Oh, can you add on another client? Sure, no problem.
yes.
I'll do it,
Oh
I'll
my
do it."
god.
And all the while, I haven't drank any water or gone to the bathroom or eaten a damn thing all day. But sure, I'll take another client.
I remember this
Uh,
one little salon I was at where I was doing a keratin. My assistant came up to me and was like, "Oh, this other person was booked for a keratin and it was so and so's client and they weren't here. Can you do it too?" And I was like, "Of course I can." A care what? And then so I had my assistant finish up the one I was doing and then I had to put the other one on. I mean, it was just like what? Why would you ever, but that's what it was, right?
yeah, yeah, professionalism meant sacrifice.
But now it means sustainability. So let's talk about social media. Is it a professional tool or is it a distraction? So social media has made stylists better. That is a fact. Education is accessible. Techniques are transparent. For the most part, visibility creates opportunity, right? But there is a line. MIT Sloan research shows multitasking actually reduces accuracy and quality. If you're filming and cutting, are you really fully present?
I mean, I'll tell you, I'm not.
Totally,
At this
totally.
age, like, the multitasking's really hard.
Yeah.
And because of the generation that I grew up in the industry, like, the client is number 1, and it's really hard to focus on being present, right?
Yeah, and I do think it's, like, a little bit crazy, like, I tried to do it where, I tried to use regular clients, regular paying clients to do it, um, and I would practice, like, "Okay, I want this shot, and this shot. I'm gonna try to move the camera as quickly as possible to get that shot," but, like, honestly, like, what? I'm not at a shoot, you know?
I
So
always get lost in the middle of the haircut too. I'm like, "Wait, what am I doing now?"
I know. It's too much. And so I decided a while ago, I was like, I can't do that. Also, clients didn't like pay to be in a photo shoot.
Yeah,
So it would be like things that I would trade for. So like with models maybe or, someone that was like a muse. I do it with them because then I could take the time to do both. But even then, are you really doing the best haircuts?
yeah, I agree. I don't believe in filming regular paying clients unless it's
Mm,
clearly agreed upon and compensated. They didn't buy a production session, just like you said.
amen.
Use models, trade for content. Professionalism is presence,
But refusing digital tools entirely isn't professionalism either, right? So
right?
there's a whole bunch of people who are hairstylists that are just kind of trying to write it off. And they're like, oh, I'm not good at it, or oh, I don't want to do it, right? But
Mhm.
visibility is modern literacy.
It's true.
Have you met anyone or have you experienced yourself like, being
100%.
an established stylist and you're kind of resisting the online booking or social media or whatever?
I mean, personally, I was super resistant to it. I mean, can you remember, like, pandemic, I would call you all the time and I'd be like, "How do you do this?"
Yeah, right?
I would get on an app, like one of the editing apps, and it would take me 8 hours to film a 30-second video, and I'm like, "What is the point?"
Yeah. It's a lot, right? So do you think that that impacted your growth and did it eventually shift or not really?
Well, I mean, definitely I've learned a lot, number 1, and it's great. Now I have a whole new skill set, which is awesome, but I think what's great about it for me is that my clients have access to me, and then
Mm,
they have access to me to share with their friends, loved ones, family members, all the things to be able to say, "You should go to this person because," and there's a visual representation, and it's not just like, "Oh, just trust me," because that's what it was
yeah.
like back in the day, right?
I mean, really, it was like that back in the day, and I think there was a lot of, like, mismatched clients and stylists because of that,
Yeah.
right? I feel like word of mouth was really important, and it is still important, but Also, people wanna see the visuals and see what you're up to as a stylist, what your style's like,
Yes.
who you are. And I think that for me, I mean, my business changed so much going the other way, like,
Mhm.
really trying to jump I mean, I was a little late to the game too, but really trying to jump into social media and using it as a tool. I have never in all my 30 years, I've never been as booked as I am now, and I truly believe it's because I kinda found a way to express like what are the things I'm into? What are you going to get when you come to a haircut with me? And I feel like people feel like that's safe because it equals the same thing. What they're seeing online about me is actually what's happening in the chair.
Y
So,
Yeah,
yeah, I do
yeah.
think it's like a big deal and it has changed my career quite a bit even at the ripe young age of 48.
Yeah, I can definitely be better, on it for sure.
Yeah. And like the more places you are, to be honest, like where you're mentioned or your work is up, the better because people use the internet in a different way now. They are really good at searching for things. So I
Mhm.
think that that is really important. And honestly, in the past, like if your owner liked you and they had a PR person they were working with, and maybe you got in a magazine or mentioned or something, then those were the people that were lucky enough to get booked.
Yeah.
But I know, the one person that got in the magazine, there were three others in the salon that were equally as good or better, and they didn't get that opportunity. Right. So I do think of the internet as like the great equalizer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
true. So true.
Yeah. And, there are a bunch of generational differences. So why don't we actually take a step back and talk about where they came from? Because I think it's really easy for us to be like, oh, they're old. They don't know this. Or they're young and they're like this, right? But let's
Mhm.
actually talk about where they come from and maybe we can understand each other in like a mixed generational setting a little bit better. So before we judge each other, that ship may have been sailed. But before we judge each other, we need context, right? So
Yeah.
generations were shaped by different environments, and that matters.
Yeah. So Gen X, you
Whoop,
know,
whoop.
we were born from 1965 to 1980. Wow, that's so crazy. In case you didn't know that, Gen X grew up pre-digital. So your reputation was word of mouth, period. There
Mm,
was no online at all, except for video games.
yeah, totally. But they weren't even that good.
No. They entered adulthood during economic instability and corporate downsizing, so independence became survival.
Mm,
Research shows Gen X tends to value autonomy and stability over recognition. Professional to Gen X means handle your business quietly. I
mm,
can definitely identify with that.
same.
Show up, deliver, repeat. Strength equals endurance and loyalty. Your blind spot, resistance to adaptation.
I mean, I know I always had the philosophy of like, you kind of leave your personal life and your shit at the door, right? You come in, there is a smile on your face, and there is not a single thing wrong. Your dog may have died, your parents may be getting divorced, you may have just lost your house, but oh, we're going to do bangs today, right? Like you were always second, always.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's talk about millennials. So millennials were born from 1981 to 1996. And millennials are interesting because they're this bridge generation, right?
Mhm,
They remember life before smartphones, but they also built their brands online.
mhm.
So they entered the workforce during the 2008 recession. Stability wasn't promised. So they were told, listen, you got to differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
Deloitte research shows millennials strongly value purpose and recognition. They built brands, they invested in education, and they shared techniques publicly. So professionalism shifted from quiet mastery to visible expertise. The strength within millennials is innovation and branding. Their blind spot may be a little bit of burnout and a little bit of blurred identity.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
It's so interesting. When we were doing this research, it was like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The millennials really do know how to build a brand. I bet if we looked into it and looked at who the millions and billionaires are for social media, I bet they're all millennials at this point because they know how to do it and they adapt pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I missed. I
Yeah.
was like, "Who are these kids?
Well,
What
totally,
are
but
they
also if
doing?"
you think about all the education that's available online and in person now, it's so saturated, right?
Mhm.
We were talking with Erin the other day from Left Brain Group, and we were talking about how, when she started that, which was only, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, something like that. She kind of was one of the only ones that was doing this thing with independent hairdressers and education that aren't associated with a brand, right? And that's amazing. Now it's nuts. You can find an educator, like if you just close your eyes and look to the left, right? And I do think that that charge is led by millennials because they are very adaptable and they are like, let me build this brand. Let me be transparent about what I do. So, like selling themselves as a brand. So I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Gen Z, which is the newbies, they were born from 1997 to 2012. I just want to make a side note that I graduated high school in 1996. It's fine. Anyway, Gen Z is
I did before you.
oh, even better. Good. We're in good company. Okay, so Gen Z is a fully digital native. They watched millennials burn out and they grew up with open conversations about mental health, which I
Yeah.
don't know about you, but those conversations were not
Oh,
had in my house.
no.
So they grew up with open conversations about mental health. So SHRM and Deloitte data shows that Gen Z prioritizes flexibility, work life balance, and values alignment. So professionalism for them includes boundaries, mental health, transparency. Their strength is self advocacy, and their blind spots may be resilience under discomfort. What has been your experience with Gen Z? Or like things that you've heard about Gen Z or that you've thought for a moment about Gen Z, especially in the workplace?
Well, my child is Gen Z, so
Oh,
I have a
yeah.
lot of, like, home experience with Gen Z. It's interesting because being independent, we're not really forced to work with anybody
Mm,
else, so I don't have a lot of in-salon experience with Gen Z, but I hear a lot from other people, clients that sit in the chair, and it's a lot of feelings. It's a lot of like, I don't feel like working today. I feel like calling in sick for not the best reason because they're like tired.
yeah. Yeah. Which is funny because, like, our generation, you would never, unless
No,
you were, like, dying, right?
but we
Like,
wear the same
"Oh, I have a
clothes as the
kidney
day
stone, but I
before.
should be in 2 hours after it passes," right? Like, Gen Z isn't like that, and honestly, I have to say, it can go a little far, but, like, I kind of admire it as well because the way that they're able to do boundaries and take care of themselves is actually pretty amazing. So, like, the last salon that I worked in before I, went independent, I was managing the education departments and the assistants, which were all Gen Z, and they did have a hard time. When you, like, pushed back and gave them constructive criticism, they kinda just, like, crumbled and fell into a puddle on the floor, right?
Mm,
So, they don't like to feel uncomfortable, which I get, nobody likes to feel uncomfortable, but at the same time, I remember sitting in the back room, and we were all having lunch, and I was like, "Oh my god," and then back in the day, I never ate lunch, and they're like, "Why would you do that?" And I'm like, "Why would I do that?" So they're very good at knowing what they need,
yeah,
to function. So,
yeah,
I do kinda have a lot of respect for them.
same, same. So growth requires discomfort, right? But let's also
True.
say this: older generations were often corrected harshly.
Mm.
Gen Z's asking for respectful feedback isn't weakness, it's evolution, right?
I mean, I agree with that 100%. That's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, the nastiness and rudeness of the stylists that came before us and the managers and owners of salons was insane. And it was like,
It was so cold.
kinda just made like, "Oh, you just have to pay your dues." And it's like on overdrive when it was like photo shoots or fashion week or learning how to be a teacher or any of those things. Like
Yeah.
the rudeness was insane. And to this day, like it still exists there and it's not my favorite, I'm gonna say that. Like, I really didn't like that at all. And so, I don't know, I admire Gen Z for being like, "Yeah, no, that's not how this is gonna work."
Yeah.
Because
I
the
mean,
things that make us successful are the things that kinda like where you keep evolving. The best thing about life is how much it changes all the time and trying different ways, right?
yeah, absolutely. I know it's crazy that we even survived that.
I know,
Like,
so rude. And I have to say, it wasn't just in the hair industry, it was in all industries. That was just the way
yeah,
it was. It
yeah,
was in when I played field hockey in Maryland, it was the same thing there. It was harsh and like, you better just pick yourself up and do it, which, yeah, built some resilience, but also, some therapy sessions down the road too.
yeah. True, true,
Right.
true.
So, I mean, the reality is Gen X values endurance for sure. Millennials value identity and visibility, while Gen Z values boundaries and alignment.
And none of those are wrong. But endurance without flexibility becomes rigidity.
Mm.
Visibility without boundaries becomes burnout.
Oh,
And boundaries without resilience becomes fragility. That's where professionalism gets complicated.
oh, doesn't it? Right? Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into AI. Smart or shortcut? And everyone has quite a few opinions about
Oh, for
this.
sure they do.
Look, AI is out of the bag. It's not going back in, and AI
Nope.
is in the salon now.
Yeah.
Stylists are using it for captions and their social media stuff, emails, consultation forms. They're using it for a lot of different things.
I've even seen an ad where they're like using AI as a phone
Yeah.
messaging system. So when you're with clients, your phone gets answered and people can like leave messages and take appointments or I
I
haven't
mean, it's
really looked
everywhere. It's a
into it, but like,
chatbot, it's whatever, right? Like it is everywhere. So it's not going away. Harvard Business Review reports AI assisted workers increase productivity without lowering quality,
it's great.
but only when it's used intentionally. So professionalism isn't doing everything manually, it's delivering excellence and efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's going back to that, like, staying present, right?
Mhm.
Like, when you use it correctly, you're freeing up space and time for yourself to be present and do the important stuff, right?
Can I tell you something that I did last week? I don't want you or any of our listeners to judge me. So I had a situation with a client, and occasionally you get a client that doesn't match up with you, whatever your values are or how you function or whatever, right? So I won't get into the whole story, but basically in the consultation, I had gone over with her very clearly what she was getting, what she wasn't getting. She, gave her opinion and we talked back and forth and we came to an agreement. And she was super happy after the haircut. We ended up doing a dry cut instead of a wet cut because she had some scalp issues. So we had decided on that together. So she was happy, she tipped, she was whatever. After she got home, she decided to write me an email the next morning and tell me or more scold me about being that she didn't think that the haircut met expectations for what a haircut could be because she got a dry cut. And so I wrote back to her and I was like, "Gosh, I'm so sorry that you feel that way. Let's talk about it. I thought that we had agreed on this during the consultation." And then she went in and continued to talk about whatever the issue was and kind of kept changing where the goalpost was, right? Basically, the bottom line was she was one of these clients that just wanted to get money back. Like she was kind of doing like a weird thing. And
Uh-huh.
so I've had clients like this in the past. We all have. And if you haven't had one yet, it's coming your way at some point. And, there's a lot of different ways in the past that I've handled that, whether it's like to argue back or to give in right away and give money back and like all the different things that you can do. And
Mhm.
so I used AI, actually. I'm not going to lie. To help write emails back and forth with her. We went back and forth maybe like 3 or 4 times. So I was angry in my head because it was something that we had agreed to, and she was asking for money back on the service and a credit even though it was something that she had agreed to, and it like really kind of irritated me.
Yeah, that doesn't feel good.
And I was like, "No, we're not doing that." So instead of wasting, as a person who works for myself, instead of wasting the emotional labor around that and the mental labor of figuring out how to write an email where there's still boundaries, but being kind in the way that I'm delivering the information, like all of those things and figuring out the tone, I was like, you know what? Let me just really quickly get on ChatGPT, build out a little thing that's like, this is how I want this conversation to go. I loaded up the emails and it was like that. Now, that doesn't mean I just blindly sent the email from ChatGPT, right? But what it did do was give me a skeleton of like how the tone should be, how it should look, what the boundaries were around that. And I cannot even tell you how happy I was after that. I did make some slight adjustments here and there in the email, but then I didn't have to think about it because I
Yeah,
already know what this client was doing. I've seen
yeah,
this pattern
yeah,
before, unfortunately, but
yeah.
you see it, right? And
Ab
of course, it still irritated me. But by the third email that she sent, because she just wanted to win at that point, and I was just like, what?
yeah,
So I just put in
yeah,
ChatGPT. I was like, I kind of want this conversation to be over and be really clear about why she won't be getting a refund. And it was like, blah, 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 put it together, done and done, sent it off. And like, that was that. And, whether you agree with that or don't agree with that, or whether you're like, oh, you should be slaving over this email, there's a lot of debate. Like, is it still human? Of course, it's still human. I'm editing it. But I have to say it really helped me so I didn't have to be worrying about that when I was doing the 10 other clients the next day.
Well, exactly, right? So it's a lot of time and energy, and it's hard to like, I mean, for me at least, it's really hard to like not have an emotional reaction to something like that, right? Because it's your
Yeah.
work, it's your livelihood, and it's your creativity that you're putting out there for your clients. And when somebody, for lack of a better word, attacks you, right?
Yeah.
You feel it here up in your heart and your chest, and like, I don't know, for me it's just so much easier to get on AI, so it takes some of that emotional stuff out of it, so you're like not responding in the heat of the moment, right? And
Yeah.
that's not kind either, you know.
Actually, yeah, that's a really good point. It's not kind to like be like, "Oh, really? Well,
Yeah,
that's interesting
yeah,
because right?"
so
And
true.
like, listen, if she didn't like the haircut and it was something like that, I'm more than happy to fix it, or,
Totally.
something wasn't right, whatever. But these kinds of things where it's just a stupid conversation from beginning to end, like, I don't have the time for it. And
No,
you know who does have the time for it?
no,
ChatGPT.
totally, totally. Yeah. So, well, on that note,
Yeah.
as long as the craft stays human,
Mm.
right? AI can't replace taste, touch, or emotional intelligence. So that's
Yeah.
good. That's good for
Yeah.
us.
Thank God for that, right?
So let's talk about professionalism and its decline or not.
Mm.
Some aspects have declined: public callouts,
Ugh.
client horror stories online, salon drama broadcast publicly. I mean, I see this all the time
Yeah.
on
Same.
social media. And it's not transparency, it's impulsivity, right?
Mm.
Or like a knee-jerk reaction. No bueno.
Mm.
Research shows emotional regulation predicts leadership effectiveness. Professionalism today isn't silence, it's self-control, people.
Ding, 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 ding,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think that is the thing, and you're right, we do see it all the time. We see, maybe it's another stylist that's called out. The things I hate the most is when we as an industry attack each other online
Oh,
saying,
it's the
"What
worst.
is this? Look at this hair. Look at this. I can't
That's
believe
wrong.
that." I don't love that, you know? The thing about, like, putting, like, a picture of someone up without their consent, that's a really big thing that I don't like. Airing out dirty laundry. Because here's the thing, it literally just comes back and bites you in the ass. It always does.
Totally.
Like, let's say you get a bad review on Google, right? And you respond in the same tone and nastiness that the client wrote the review in, because 'cause they're emotionally charged up.
Yeah.
Do you know who the rest of the people looking at those reviews for the rest of your life are going to respond to? You and what
Uh,
you said, because you're
100%.
supposed to be the leader and you're supposed to be the professional. So it
Yes.
doesn't actually matter what the client said, it's really about how you responded to it.
It's so true. You have to be so careful because
Yeah.
that stuff, it stays there forever
It
now.
does. Listen, I learned this lesson young. I am the second born in my family. And so my sister, sorry, Gabby, who was on our podcast, used to, when we were very young, like she was much more quiet about whatever we'd argue about. And then I would respond with this big emotion and yell and scream and like a feral child, right? But guess who got in trouble every single time? Hello, it was me. And the reason was because of the reaction. Like people
Yeah.
see the reaction. And
Yeah.
so there may be drama happening in your salon to like kind of bring it back to this, but that doesn't mean that you should like air that out online because it's tacky,
Yeah.
to be honest.
And show some restraint. Come on.
Yeah, literally. Literally. So, I mean, we've been talking about all these differences and like what actually happens and between generations and how generations handle different things and whatever. But how do you actually, for salon owners and managers, how do you lead a multi generational salon? If you lead a salon, here are some good things that you can start to think about because this is pretty much the non negotiables for any generation, any group. It's really the non negotiables around a business like ours. Okay. So, client privacy is a number one. That's always needs to be on the top of the list.
Yes.
Punctuality, whether that means your staff's getting to work on time, whether they're hanging out after the salon. It also means punctuality when you're doing your services. So if you have someone that works for you that's consistently like 30, 40 minutes late, they may need to like make their appointment times a little longer, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Another big one, maybe cleanliness. Can we not leave hair all over the floor? And I'm shouting out you barbershops, like
Yeah.
all over the floor for client, 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 client. No one wants to look at that. We are not bothered by hair because we're hairdressers, but everyone else in the world is. So just know that. And then social media guidelines. Like you
Mhm.
don't have to say you can't post this, you can post that, whatever, but you should have some basic guidelines about what's okay to share and what's not okay to share. Or at least like if you are going to do client before and afters, like make sure you get consent from the client, that type of thing. So
Yeah.
guidelines. All right. So you got to define those non negotiables. And those are just a few examples of what they are. The second thing that you want to do when you're leading a salon is you want to separate preference from principle. Okay. So what does that mean? Sweatpants? That's a preference, right? Respect, that's a principle. So separate, what those two things are and where you stand with both. The third thing you can do when you lead a salon is you want to look into cross mentor intentionality, right? So Gen X teaches retention. Millennials could teach branding and Gen Z could teach about boundaries. This puts us in this beautiful circle and this beautiful thing where each thing is respected for what it is. And we're using the groups that are the best at, whatever it is that they're teaching to actually teach the others about that. And that may be a tough sell for the old ones, but if you can build a salon culture where everyone is respected, that's amazing. And here is the fourth one. And this is a big one. I know a bunch of us don't do it because we get busy and running a salon is really hard. Write your standards down. Okay. Harvard Business Review shows clarity reduces generational conflict more than personality alignment.
It's very true.
Mm,
I have to write everything down.
everything. And if I
Everything.
don't write it down, I'm going to forget because perimenopause.
Yeah,
So here we are.
for sure. Well, I love this so much about, bringing everybody into the mix. It's like parenting 3 different children, right? You can't
Yeah.
parent them all the same. They're each individuals, and they have different needs and different wants.
So true.
So true. So, our final reflection on this
Mm,
whole topic, professionalism, it used to mean polish and sacrifice.
it did. And now it means clarity and sustainability.
And every generation brings strength.
And every generation brings blind spots.
Yeah. The smartest salons won't pick a side.
They'll build standards strong enough to hold everyone.
Respect the client
Respect the craft.
and respect yourself. And that's
And that is
hair
hair
smart.
smarter. And listen, guys, if this resonated with you, if you run a salon, if you manage a salon, if you feel like there's someone that could learn from this, or just, it's always great to have new information. Please share, please like, please subscribe, all the things that you do when you're listening to a podcast. And we'll see you next time on Hair
Hair
Smarter.
smarter.
Bye.
Bye.